Hey class, good evening. It is Sunday, and this week's lecture and coursework is really going to be geared around the carry pattern. So I wanted to kind of unpack this a little bit because for many of you this is going to be a new concept, introducing what we call loaded carries or carries into a workout. I want to also thank you and acknowledge that I'm not in the gym today. Fortunately, believe it or not, I have a dry erase board in my house, and I have some weights and things that we're able to use here at my house that'll, so we don't actually have to be in the gym, so it'll make it a little bit easier. Okay, so what are we talking about when we talk about carry patterns? So remember we talked about in the human movement pattern lecture that anything that we carry, so it could be shoulder, it could be a variety of different ways we're carrying things, whether it's a child, whether it's groceries, whether it's luggage, a backpack. That is a fundamental pattern that we have in sort of human movement, right? We carry something to move it to a destination, to bring it with us. And so this is something that we can train in the fitness facility or in the weight room. And it's from a scientific perspective, there's actually a lot of reasons to train it. In particular, grip work. Now, this is one of those things that never gets discussed in standard fitness blogs or standard fitness go on YouTube, wherever you may get your fitness information, and I would say be careful where you're getting it from because, unfortunately, there's not a lot of there's not a great ton of quality, high scientific evidence in the regular kind of Google searching fitness world on YouTube or Instagram. So I'm just gonna say that. I'll leave it there. But what do we mean by grip strength? So our grip strength, or our ability to grab something, is completely trainable. All of the muscles in your forearms, including the endurance capacity for you to actually hold objects in your hand, is 100% trainable. Now you may see, if you've gone to gyms, for those of you that are familiar with gyms when they were open or when you get back, some people wear what's called wrist straps, and I'll put a picture up just below this video. You'll see an example of a wrist strap. Wrist strap is a strap that goes around your hand. It's made out of nylon or leather or cotton leather mix. And it basically is a wrap that allows you to wrap the band around the bar, or let's say the lat pull down, or any of the pieces of equipment, and it allows you to get a better grip because it actually connects around the wrist. So the grip isn't nearly as important as is the setup of what we call the wrist wrap. Now, there's a reason why people gravitate towards wrist wraps, and if you're familiar with them, you may go, well, yeah, it makes it easier for me to pull things, to hold things in my hand when I'm doing exercise. This is an example, pull-ups and things like that, which we'll get to here in a little bit. And yes, it does, but it comes at the expense of your forearm strength. And if you're not doing maximal effort anything, you don't need to train with wrist straps all the time. You may notice that these wrist straps, if you're familiar with the facility, the gyms, people will have these dangling straps of material just walking around as they go, and then they wrap their hands up and they grab their dumbbells. You don't need that. That's actually because you don't have the requisite strength in your forearms. So you need grip strength to do stuff, and you can train your grip strength to be stronger. And if you properly train grip strength, it will come along the ride of getting stronger, just like the rest of your body as you're doing stuff. And I have an anecdote that I like to share. So my years of personal training, there was a gentleman who was in really, really good shape. He was an older gentleman, and I always used to see him out on the floor, and he'd have those wrist straps, and he'd be walking around with the wrist straps, and every 2 seconds he'd get on the lat pull down, he'd do the pull down on the cable machine. He'd wrap his wrists in there, and he was super muscular, more of a bodybuilder approach, less of a strength athlete, but more of a bodybuilder. So he had some pretty good muscle development. And he'd always say, I said, Mike, why are you using the wrist wraps? He's like, because I need it to hold on to the bar. I'm like, oh, okay, I got it. So you're strong enough to do the exercise, you're just not strong enough to do the exercise. And I would smile. And he would say, no, I mean, I can do the weight, because he would put 150, 200 pounds on the rack, on the cable machine, and he would wrap his wrists in so he didn't have to hold it with his hands. He would hold it with this strap, and he would do it. He's like, no, I can do it. I just my grip goes. And I said, Mike, I totally got it. I understand what you're saying. You're strong enough to do it. You're just not strong enough to do it. And I smile again. And he said, no, I can do it. I just need it because my grip, gives out. I said, Mike, it's 100% clear to me. You're strong enough to do it. You're just not strong enough to do it. And he was like, what? Why do you keep saying that? I said, because Mike, you've foregone your grip strength because you had learned early on that I need to use these wraps. These wraps are they're like a handicap. They're a crutch. You don't need them. You've created weakness in your form, weakness in your grip because of this equipment. Stop using it. He said, well, I won't be able to do nearly as much weight. I said, I know. Until your forearms get up to speed with the strength, you're not going to be able to do the weight that you normally could do. But if you continue to practice on your forearms and really working, the pulling exercise that you're doing without wrist straps, they'll catch up. And then you'll be better for it in the event that you need to have grip to hold on to something, right? You don't have wrist straps out in life, walking around with the grocery cart, and you don't get to have wrist straps. You have to use your own grip. So, having said that, I hope that's kind of anecdotally funny. You can use it. You can steal that if you want. We've got a couple different styles of grip strength that we can work on. We have a thing called hook grip. So hook grip literally is when you think about climbing or kind of hooking onto something where you're trying to pull yourself up. That's typically called hook grip. There's another type of grip called pinch grip. So holding an object in between my thumb and my forefingers and just pinching it. That's pinch grip. And then crush grip is when you try and shake someone's hand to death and squeeze it really hard. This is crush grip. Those are your three grips that you can train, and they have different tools that you can train with them. So I actually have some stuff here at the house that I don't have at the fitness facility. One of which is for a hook grip. This is called a rock ring. So you'll see it hangs, and I could hang this over a pull-up bar, or I could hang this, like on a pull-up bar, and it kind of mimics, and you can see here, there's these little holes, and my hands can fit into these little spaces, or I could do over the top. This is all hook grip. And here's full hand, here's three fingers, here's 2 fingers, and I could really work 1 finger if I wanted to, but that's pretty hard. But you can work the dexterity and the overall strength of your hook grip with this thing called a rock ring. I have 2 of them. This just happens to be one, so I could set both of them up and I could work on different hook grip patterns. Now, the crush grip, there's another thing these are called power bombs. And you'll see, these actually are slightly rough, so you have some grip on them, but notice how fat it is. So this is basically a crush grip, and this I could hang over a pull-up bar or whatever, and I would be working my crush grip in this pattern. And these are really, really challenging because you can see it's a straight shot, so I really have to crush as hard as I want. They have another one called, I think this is, I forget, the atom bomb, I think they call this. So this is it's a crush grip, but you can imagine how difficult that is to hold my whole body weight. And so this is another tool that you can use as well. There's plenty of different shapes. These are just a few of the shapes that they make. The rock climbing world has a ton of these things, and my hope is that we will shortly get some of these into the weight room at the LACC weight room so that we can actually play with some grip stuff. So this is a good example. You can find these on Amazon. I'll put a link under the video, so check it out, where you can actually see these different types of grip strengthening tools. So that is more complex stuff, but imagine just picking up deadlifting, right? We talked about deadlifting. We talked about reverse grip, overhand grip. You can use that. That's a great way to train your grip. Now, we also need to consider, besides the different ways we can train it, grip strength versus shoulder health. So, in the scientific literature, there is a correlation between healthy grip and healthy shoulder. And when we go into this discussion, I'm going to actually not break you out, but we're going to have an activity where I'm going to have you assess your grip strength and or someone else's grip strength with a very simple test. So stay tuned for that. That'll be fun to unpack. But we know, because there are a lot of nerve connections in the hand that connect, or what they call innervate, right into the shoulder. So if you have great grip strength, you most likely have pretty good shoulder health. And in fact, when people say I have a shoulder or a history of shoulder injury, or I've got this thing's bothering me, 9 times out of 10, if we do a simple grip assessment that we'll do, you can see a discrepancy in the shoulder that's got the injury will have a weaker grip associated with it. That's really fascinating stuff. So we'll play with that. Now, the other thing when we get into carries, so carrying weight, and I'll demonstrate that in the video, carrying weight in your hands, heavy weight. We're going to be walking around with weight in our hands as an exercise. It totally trains your core. In fact, some other research suggests that you get way more core activation in a loaded farmer's carry than you would in some of the basic core exercises that you're used to. And we're going to blow up core training when we get closer to that down the road. I'm going to teach you some stuff that you didn't even know, was probably no longer safe. Some problems with some of the core training stuff that's out there and being suggested in fitness facilities. So we're going to blow that whole thing up. But just consider that farmer's carries, some of the exercises that we're going to do, are fantastic for core strength. So the good benefit, side benefit of this whole thing is grip, shoulder health, and core training, which is really, really critical. In particular because of the architecture of the stabilization muscles inside the pelvis and the lower spine. That's where you start to see some real great development in core stabilization. And then finally, what's also another benefit to doing what we call farmer's carries and variations on farmer's carries is there's a cardiovascular component to it. It gets really hard, assuming the weight is heavy enough. So stick around. We're going to talk a little bit more here in the next video about the various farmer carries, including bilateral, unilateral, and some variations on that. And then we're going to talk about, of course, always form, the safety and spotting of it. Can we even spot this? And hint, 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 you can't spot farmer carries. And then how to load and figuring out the best loading strategy for you and distance strategy. So that's all I got for now. Jump down to the next video and we're going to go through some of our farmer carries.